8.5. You saw that in the EULCS last night. We'll be live on NA today as well. Still on 8.4 for the remainder of the weekend. Still plenty to talk about.
Yeah, still going to have those abandoned minions coming through. And speaking of bans, first two are out. It's going to be Gangplank and Sejuani taken off the board. Nothing really shocking so far, but targeted ban with the Talia does come through.
Not nice to ban the Gangplank on blue side when you have ADD, another good Gangplank player, but
Just had a very good game versus Kongdu Monster.
He did, but unfortunately, Keen's had 7 out of 8 good games. He's 7-1 on the Gangplank, so not interested in leaving that open for the side of Afreeca. The Scion here is the fun one, Achilles, because who's banning it, given that we have two of our biggest Scion teams? Seems like it will have to be an Afreeca ban, otherwise MVP will do well to flex pick it. Afreeca then will be setting up their draft about what is left to shake over on the red side, and they leave it open. So Afreeca has two champions they want to take. Notice that Galio is available here. The Scion, as we mentioned, available, and also the cream of the AD carry crop. So does MVP just lock up the flex pick Scion, or do they look somewhere else?
4 jungle bans already, so pinching down on that pool as Afreeca bans away 3 of them, just trying to upset Beyond.
Okay.
But it actually is going to be a first pick Rise at the end of the day.
That is not one I was expecting. Azir is usually taken as higher priority over the Rise. Zyra Khan is available. Seems like both teams are showing off the good stuff that's available. Given that there's a mid laner to take into the Rise in Azir, it's surprising to see it so high priority. But Ian has had some great recent games on the Rise. Still a power pick on this patch. And MVP seems to be happy to take Tristana whenever it's available. Caitlyn will be the strongest possible laning phase, but Tristana Leona is a possibility here if Max wants to go down that route, and they'll just take Shen. A flex pick given that ADD is one of our bigger tank players. Watching the LPL, still a lot of support Shen, whereas in our league we have seen very little support Shen in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, has kind of fallen off, was even ban-worthy near the beginning of the split, but haven't seen it prioritize that much, but MVP still feeling it, so we'll lock it in, keep things a little bit ambiguous as to whether that Shen is going into the top lane or into the bottom side there for Max. And Galio, you mentioned it, wasn't first picked, wasn't grabbed at all by MVP in their 2 rounds, and it's just going to be locked in for Kuro in the end of the day.
Kuro looked a bit full on when he had to lock in the Galio, thinking this isn't an MVP factory.
How am I supposed to get ahead of Tucson even further?
He's going to have to show us if he truly earns that first place in the MVP rankings, but we'll digress. MVP will ban away the Hextech Ultimatum Heroes Entrance synergy that is always prized by teams when they pick up one of the 2. So a lot of power picks banned away, and as you mentioned, the jungle pool, we're getting to the dregs of the jungle pool. It's very top-heavy at the moment. There's about 4 junglers that are used, and basically Sejuani every game, as Twitch chat likes to complain about. So
we're going to go back to Lee Sin days.
That'd be the dream. 8.4 Lee Sin, where he has to buy control wards, and his ward hopping is significantly more expensive.
No tracker snipe. Feels bad.
No, it does feel bad.
Well, Scion, the final ban here from the Afreeca Freecs, so making sure MVP can't snatch that one up there for ADD, so seeming to think that the Shen is going to be in the top lane, and Gnar will be the final ban away here by MVP.
So you would imagine jungle and then a counter pick for top lane, given that basically all the safe blind picks are gone. But Afreeca have been drafting, I don't want to say irrationally, but definitely with more creativity than other teams. We just got off the shortest game of the season with Anivia, Jinx, and friends.
Yeah. Nocturne as well from Mowgli, but we don't really want to talk about that.
And this is more rationality to the pick, though, as, okay, they digress. So we will go back to 2017 meta and get the Galio Kha'Zix duo. That was the favorite of BDD and Kuz on Longzhu Gaming. Now, Cho'Gath would have been a takeaway pick from MVP, but they remember the Shen and do put respect in the flex pick and leave it open. ADD's smiling. Come on, you're not going to play Fiora.
I mean, hovering it right now for a long while. Fiora has not been
He's
having a good
do it.
time.
All right.
He's just going to lock it in.
All right,
Screw
ADD, one of the last people you expect to be blind picking Fiora. It could be a mid lane Fiora as well. No, they got Rise. Come on, guys. We're not going to be that crazy. Are we?
I mean, come on.
We're not 100% sure.
Keen is the Rise top player. He's on the other side of the rift.
I'm just saying, anything could be happening in this draft. It's MVP. Who's going in the jungle?
It's a support Fiora.
And we're just going straight off the deep end in terms of picks. We haven't had a
Gragas Let's go.
in like a month, Achilles. Last one I remember was Blank, who did not have a fun time. All right. Afreeca just lock in Jinx. We can have 280 carries, whatever.
They went off script. I think we need to get a writers meeting. But Gragas, the final lock-in alongside a Fiora for ADD.
And now Afreeca ostensibly looking for a top laner. And it's probably just going to be the ultra-reliable Cho'Gath as they look at the enemy comp and go, there's a lot going on here.
Let's get something that probably won't die in lane. So they go ahead and lock up the Cho'Gath. Really interesting comp.
They're still not sure which one's going top lane Achilles, because Fiora mid lane has been seen as a pseudo counter to the Galio in previous metas. I think it's gone away. I actually think it's a lot less reliable than it was in the past. So we think it's going to be the top lane Fiora, but outside chance and Afreeca, you never really want to draft a tank into the Fiora because they're not 100% clear. They'll go with the safest tank choice of all in the Cho'Gath when it comes to the laning phase. 20 seconds. The last time you can turn things over, and OGN will take it away at 22 and suggest that it will be Fiora in a tank matchup. That means we might see the return of Black Cleaver on the Fiora, on the old build, on the old play style. We haven't seen Fiora as a tank buster basically this season at all because there has been so little blind pick Fiora and so little tanks paid in top lane in general, but we finally do see it. But what a role reversal. Fiora versus Cho'Gath in this matchup. Sure, it's keen on Fiora, right? No, it's going to be ADD on the blind pick Fiora.
Absolutely bonkers pick coming through here from MVP. But yeah, like you said, not going to be, the skill matchup with versus the Camille that we've been so used to seeing as of late. So has that opportunity to just run away completely with the lane. Can likely expect some early visitation from Spirit up towards that top side to try to keep the Cho'Gath alive and in the fight.
A lot of power on the side of Afreeca. On MVP, a lot of creativity. Let's see how it goes.
Now, which one outweighs the other? We're about to find out as we jump onto the Rift. Afreeca Freecs looking for those double 2-0 victories in the next matchups. Let's see if they can get the ball rolling here with a Game 1 win as we dive in.
Calm down, Achilles. I know you haven't been around for just over a week. We still have the fan chant.
There's a bit of a stutter on the fan chant, which is why I did laugh.
Well, I believe it is because that is not his normal speaking voice. He probably does not speak quite as boomingly as he does when he's at the studio.
He's actually got a really high-pitched voice.
I did an interview earlier this week with Esports Heaven, and that's one of the few times that I'm not using my casting voice talking about League of Legends. People are talking about, wow, you sound so different. And I imagine the same is true for the MVP cheerleader, I guess we will call him. He does lead the cheers, even if he doesn't fit the profile of a cheerleader to some.
It's a fair enough assessment, I think. Or title to bestow upon him.
Well, I'm going to bestow upon the bot lane that MVP have a really poor 2v2 with Tristana and Shen. Both of them going to be outclassed in the laning phase by their opponents. An extra global from Max, who, notice, is going Aftershock. This was the choice on support Shen earlier in the season, but after the nerfs to Aftershock in terms of damage, the threat of the level 2 all-in went away, so a lot more unsealed spellbook for playmaking. Does mean extra tankiness, though, in the early game. But you do worry about the bot lane laning phase. Top lane, the bastion of hope when it comes to laning. It's bot lane with level 1.
Already the punish coming through, the Ignite thrown down there by Tucson. Chunks out Max quite a bit. You can see the win rate there for the Fiora, still not so hot. Has picked up an extra win, now 2-9. And an average KDA of 0.8.
And Keen was the second win on that particular statistic. But yes, the KDA leaves lots to be desired. A hard-to-execute champion outside of laning phase.
Oh, that's going to be the double pop-up.
And this is just MVP playing the laning phase incredibly poorly.
This is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I mean, you drafted into what I guess you would call a dog matchup if you follow the dog champ idea of top lane. It's a matchup that you know is not about the 2v2. Tristana has great scaling, and the range for the sieging in the late game will be important. You got a global on the Shen to answer some of the rotational plays that Afreeca can make. But when it comes to actually 2v2, and when you get your work performance rating, this one's not going to go so well for the side of MVP.
No. Odd choice as well to go for the Doran's Blade instead of the shield there for Pilot. Should have known that he was going to be getting the crap poked out of him, so
Beyond going for a walk topside, and it's Cho'Gath, so he's overextended.
Has the red buff as well. Body slam. Not going to catch him. It's going to flash away. He'll get slowed up by the barrel. Flash in by Beyond. They get right in front of him. Keen trying to trade back. Takes ADD very low. TP now coming through. That's going to be the Vital, and that's going to be first blood as ADD takes it away. TP going to be completed by Kuro.
So he completes his teleport. The only reason to do so would be to affect the lane and make sure it doesn't freeze. But ends up leaving it anyway, so the teleport does end up largely being useless. That was after a shop, so not as big a deal, but has to now walk all the way to mid lane. Gonna miss about 3 minions.
We'll get the rest of them, but here comes another engaged pilot, able to jump away just in time. Max slows down the dodge zone. Tries to trade back, but Tucson, of course, going to come out on top of that one as we see Spirit waiting in the tri-brush.
6th game in a row of Pilot on the Tristana, which has risen in priority in the LCK, but Spirit's actually going to stay.
Yeah, he's going to be spotted out now, jumps in. Max is going to go ahead and use that Shadow Dash, gets himself in underneath the turret. Will stay alive, but the punish coming through quite heavily there from the Afreeca Freecs.
They got double summoners, so they're going to feel good about that anyway. Tucson had to use his flash, but didn't have the ignite. Used it at level 1 to get such a strong trade. So far, even after everything, it does end up being pretty even in CS. Still, they put out damage. The W helpful in that regard.
Yeah, got the root down, but now Beyond's coming around the side looking for his second
successful
successful
want Tucson.
gang.
They know he doesn't have flash.
They'll just get the slow. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start peeling back. Max is playing quite far forward.
He could have just accidentally died to some feathers there.
No Blade Caller, look at that. You take it down. That'd be pretty embarrassing.
Max is going for some sick playmaking. Actually took the Hexa Flash.
Another pop-up, but it's going to be a nicely timed jump, and Max is really just playing with fire. He's going to have to go back to base. And Afreeca Freecs, complete control over the lane. Not a massive CS lead so far here for Kramer, but can start punishing as they push these waves into the turret here.
And with first blood, you indicated it to me, Achilles, it's going to be a very early cull from ADD, who has also gone for Kleptomancy. We saw a phase rush from Smeb the last time out on Fiora, but Klepto is by far the most normal choice. And for once, the Fiora game plan is a bit clearer, because we know what happens over time in Fiora lanes against tanks. First time we're seeing it in a true tank matchup. The Cho'Gath also is not Camille when it comes to a teleport gank. A lot more setup, needs to get there, and then also have the CC come in after his long teleport channel. So the Fiora might actually be able to get some work done. Definitely not willing to anoint it a successful pick. Definitely does have a more favorable matchup than recent Fioras who have been struggling.
Yeah, going to take a little while before he can actually start working that Cho'Gath down. Needs to get those items in. The Tiamat to come through. For now, the innate sustain there on the passive for the Cho'Gath is going to keep him alive and in the fight. You can see already a nice little 1,000 gold lead.
The Cho'Gath will have a role in Baron confirmation. They don't have a super fast Baron compass. Guess who's back? Back again.
Yep, going to be looking for the gank here. Grand challenge has been thrown in. Keen jumped down to about half HP. He'll get slowed down. Gets the rupture to pop up ADD, but it's not enough. He's going to go down without that flash. Grand entrance coming through here. Kuro trying to arrive, maybe trying to turn something around, but he's very low on mana. Gets the taunt off, and he's just going to go ahead, Justice punch his way back underneath the turret. So just going to be another kill picked up by MVP.
And it's more than that, Achilles, because they draw out the global as well for no value. Things seem a little bit sleepy on the top side. Remember, the Fiora was blind picked, and Keen felt confident to go in with the Cho'Gath. Bit of zombie pushing now, as every time he actually gets the shove onto the Fiora. Jungler comes in, good ganking pressure, but then you see the nicely timed disengage from Beyond and ADD. MVP are playing around this top side really well, and finally it's a Fiora that's set up to succeed.
Yep, and MVP going to take that nice early little lead here. Hasn't translated into any objectives yet. Infernal Drake, our first one here, still standing on the Rift. See Kramer there, assisting Tucson to just get away from that Shadow Dash. Very elusive, of course, with this Lover's bot lane, so trying to land that taunt is going to be a very difficult task for Max.
And we'll see if Afreeca try to rotate around the Fiora as we crest into the mid-game. Keen has rushed into the Bramble Vest. That is still a great item against the constant sustain of Fiora, but in no way as strong as it was last year when it was the meta first item on basically every top lane tank. Things definitely going better than expected. A 1,200 gold lead. The entire gold lead of MVP is on the Fiora.
Yep. Entirely resting on him. The Rise is doing all right as well, as it turns out. Ian's been farming up there, and Kuro with his roams towards the top side, first with that completed TP. And then the ultimate has fallen behind by just over 20 CS.
The timing of these ganks has been so important because if you think back to the last time we had a meta of Kha'Zix and Galio, Kha'Zix would have the invade because he has the dueling and skirmishing advantage over Gragas basically every time, and then Galio would rotate. Kha'Zix is supposed to set the speed of this jungle matchup, but Gragas' 2 early ganks, and now the hero's entrance being used, means it's much harder for Spirit to make this playstyle work, as you can see on the screen. And also, MVP have done the hard work before the hero's entrance even available, so they're rewriting what is supposed to be a pretty one-sided early pressure advantage, the side of Afreeca.
See if MVP are going to be the ones that are able to maintain control over the game and continue to dictate the pace. For now, Rum coming through, Tucson joining up into this mid lane as Beyond goes in for the body slam. He's going to get popped up. He'll get taken low, and he'll just get taken out. Kuro comes up with a kill. Realm Warp thrown down just to try to bail him out, but Beyond goes in aggressive, and you can see he doesn't really know what he was even thinking at that moment.
Yeah, it seemed like he just had a bad read on the situation, didn't respect the bot lane was going to rotate first, and there was an extra member from Afreeca. Didn't even have to invest a flash from Kuro to make that happen. Wombo CC'd to death. First mistake from MVP. But if you can get a lot of advantages around the mid lane without even using ultimates from the likes of Galio, that's happy time. Nice decisive play from Tucson. Shen ultimate was used in this. A very long cooldown that has to be respected. And we didn't even catch that till the end, but ADD also invested his flash. So that was actually even costlier on... So yes, his teleport. That was even costlier on summoners and ultimates than it first appeared, as Spirit just walks over the Infernal and solos it down.
Yeah, there we go. Finally does get that objective off the rip, and it's going to be a second one on the way. So that one slip up from Beyond does cost MVP quite a bit, and if Afreeca can net themselves that second Infernal Drake, suddenly this isn't looking so bad for them.
And suddenly we have battle lines drawn. We know where MVP is strong, top side, through the Fiora. So Gragas going for the Rift Herald into plays around the Fiora is probably where MVP should go. It's where their bread is buttered, let's say. Whereas MVP, where on the side of Afreeca, they have the good roam, so they can potentially turn things around. But you're very happy to double down around Zyra Khan and also a monopolization of Drakes when it includes 2 Infernals. So far we know where both teams are strong. Attempting to actually override where they're strong and turn a weakness into a strength or vice versa is quite difficult at the highest level. So we'll see how both teams play out from this first 10 minutes of action.
Beyond roaming his way up. You see ADD just going to go ahead and proxy this little wave behind the turret. Beyond is here to back him up. He starts to rotate over. Body slam comes in right as DJ just jump in on top of the Cho'Gath. They'll go in underneath the turret, knock him right back out with the explosive cask. And Keen, well, challenge completed. Last hit comes through, and ADD is going to go 2-0-1, but now he's in a spot of bother. Spirit comes in, slows up from that barrel. Now they're just going to turn this one around, try to kill him. ADD still has to back away. Realm Warp comes through from Ian. Does he want to flash the wall? The answer is going to be yes. Rune Prison's there, into the overload, and that is a dead bug. And now MVP may be looking for that first brick gold as they focus down the tower.
Yeah, Afreeca's playing really strangely this game. They were trying to bail out where they were weak, and Spirit got very aggressive and greedy, trying to pick up a trade kill. Throughout that whole action, I was watching the minimap, and Ryze was actually controlling the top side of mid lane, whereas Galio was tending towards the bot side. So Ryze could clearly say, no hero's entrance play is going to come, no teleport is going to come, I have control. Watch the minimap. Galio is never going to join this fight, so they're heavily outnumbered. The turret dive happens, it's a kill. That's all it needed to be. But then Spirit comes in basically a 1v2. Beyond's full health, he can stop him being isolated. Ryze's first rotation. This is really strange play from Spirit, who this game is actually starting instead of Mowgli, but not really making a great performance so far, and great show of himself.
Yeah, I mean, the leap in to get the damage on the Fiora forces out the flash, but he chases in with a flash of his own.
Oh, look at the gold lead. It's monstrous on the top lane.
That is just brutal.
It's 2,800 gold at 12 minutes. Got a damn Black Cleaver and Tiamat.
That is a very, very scary Fiora. ADD trying to do her a bit of a favor by getting those win rates up. 18%. Might be just a little bit more than that after this game.
Of course, after this, we find out that ADD is the sickest top lane carry. Just wasn't allowed to play carries, apparently.
He's just been stuck on Cho'Gath all the time.
He was even more hiding in plain sight than Khan, who was in the pro scene for a few years.
We did see his gangplank. We know that his gangplank, at least versus Kongtu Monster, is pretty good, but I guess that doesn't say too much about it.
We definitely try to check our language, if you're wondering, OG and Legion, when it comes to performances against Condu Monster, because, you know, they're losing a whole hell of a lot.
It's not a great way to estimate somebody's ability.
Your metric is a bit skewed. We don't like to talk about skewed stats, and unfortunately, Kongdu has been providing those. And bot lane, Keen's like, I'm going to fight these minions, because that Fiora is pretty scary.
Oh, well, going in, we'll land the taunt there onto Ian, but not going to find the pop-up. They get him with the quickness as Max arrives, but maybe going to be regretting that decision. Caller not going to find the root. Grift Herald goes in for the charge onto the turret, but won't even be taking it down on that push.
And this is what Afreeca need to do. Force MVP to react to their proactive moves that are nowhere near this man on your screen, ADD. If ADD is involved in the calculation, it's going to be a big advantage to the side of MVP, despite it being Fiora in a team fight, as I'm alluding to. As Afreeca want to outnumber, and remember, they have Galio. They have the power to outnumber, more so than MVP do. But so far, Afreeca have made a handful of mistakes around the Fiora, and now any win condition there is out the window for a little while.
So just going to find themselves down by about 3,000 gold. Infernal Drake silently giving those extra little stats over to Afreeca. But until we see 2-3 items start to come through, they're not going to be the most relevant. But getting that second Infernal in a minute and a half, that could be one of the things that later goes on to help Afreeca turn this game around.
Afreeca do have the proactive draft. You would expect to see them making moves in the mid game, but those expectations are a bit fickle. And right now, although Kramer is very strong, he's up 42 CS in the duo lane, which mirrors about how much the Fiora is ahead, not including gold generation. You know, the items are still rolling. It's just going to be the first item. He's working towards the Zeal on top of the Essence Reaver. That's definitely where they want to fight, but we talked about where the map was cut. It's still cut in the same way. If Galio's ulting, he doesn't want it to be anywhere near a Cho'Gath. He wants to be where Xayah and Rakan are, because that's where Afreeca can potentially try to make things happen. And if Cho'Gath can just occupy the time of the Fiora, interrupt a teleport, that's the gold standard.
Another thing to keep in mind here is that there's that added pressure on the Afreeca Freecs. They find themselves right now behind already in game number 1. They need those 2-0s versus MVP and then later BBQ to secure that second place spot. It might just slip right through their fingers here in the first game.
Yeah, just to reiterate, guys, if you missed the opening of the show, if they 2-0 their opponents, which right now are MVP and BBQ, before the all-important game against KT, that game actually ends up being a glorified exhibition, because if KT win 2-0, they're still unable to jump above Afreeca and thus can't skip over a best-of-5. So Afreeca, you know, they control their destiny in their own hands. Losing to MVP, even a single game, could be very costly.
Right now, I think their destiny is in ADD's hands. Turns out that he's pretty good at the Fiora, and as long as he can maintain this performance and just keep shutting Keen down, I mean, Keen's just not going to be tanky enough to stand in the front line, even as a Cho'Gath.
With Fiora, the question is always, what does it mean? Because actually,
what do you do in the late game?
In the mid to late game, even at this point, there's still fights where Afreeca will be able to trade up. They have very strong 4v4, and all Cho'Gath wants to do is interrupt the Fiora, and if Fiora's not there, their entire gold lead is basically gone. So it's very difficult always to make these comps work, because Max walking up.
Yeah, that's going to be the pop-up coming through.
Wombo time!
Hero's entrance coming down. Ian will still get knocked up, but he is still in the fight, still alive. He'll be able to exit with his life, but Max cannot say the same. He'll get taken down. TP completed from Keen, but canceled by ADD.
And AD goes back to the top lane, chooses not to come in 3 members. That's smart. But this is what we're kind of alluding to. The power on the Fiora only means something in the side lane. Remember back to Jinna versus KT, where we had a Trundle split push 2 turrets and it not matter. Afreeca has very reliable engage in the 4v4. And as the game goes on, you take the first Baron of the game, you slap a Banon down, Fiora does nothing in a 5v5. So Afreeca definitely are going to try and make this game more narrow, make a very strong play towards the Baron, and then force the Fiora to rotate and play away from her strength. So as MVP, need to be smarter at their setups, really invest in control ward vision to stop Afreeca just going for these bouncy castles with the Galio.
Tucson, he has not been afraid to pull the trigger. We know that about him. If he sees an opening, he will take it, even if it ends up costing him his life. So far, so good. It's going to be 0-0-2 on that con so far. So 100% kill participation. Great job, Tucson.
And Keen has the least happy item as a Cho'Gath.
Actually, wait.
Straight Thornmail.
I shouldn't praise Tucson. That never works out.
It's true.
Every time I say that he's doing a good job, he ends up just feeding horribly.
He needs to be the best player nobody's talking about.
Yes.
That is his gold standard.
He's kind of like KT.
Yeah.
If you get excited about Tucson doing well, then he starts doing poorly.
I've had my fill of things to say about KT. I'll hold them for the second series. But you don't feel good as Keen, walking around with no mana or health. You just have the Thorn Mail to walk up and slowly die to ADD. And really else he can do there. Would love some CDR, but hasn't been able to fit into the build at the first item. And he just kind of gets to every minion wave second because his job is to slowly walk over after ADD and not die.
Yep. Just fully investing into the lane. Thornmail with a Ninja Tabby just to try to mitigate that damage as much as humanly possible. Triple Infernal. It's been a while since we've seen that, and Afreeca already netting 2 for themselves basically makes this a must-have for MVP.
I think there's been a couple of lane assignment mistakes for MVP because they rotated down the Fiora early, then rotated back top lane, try to get ahead of the play. But that was as second Infernal was spawning. You really want to control the bot side of the map, and Fiora ended up not being able to get to the Infernal fight. If Fiora's not there, they do, I would say, reliably lose the 4v4. So I much prefer this lane assignment, but it's easy to say at 14, 15 minutes when the second fight happened. Now Baron's on the map, so there's that extra variable. They may just accidentally, or at least within their control, lose out on 3 Infernals because of small mistakes like that.
ADD just going to be taking a stroll through the jungle while he loses out on that mid turret. Seems like, oh no, he's going to cancel the take on the blue buff. Now hovering here into the river. Running comes down. Yep, Spirit does get a little bit of damage in. ADD just going to clear out the control ward. Now they're going to try to exit, but the pop-in goes through there from Tucson. Gets the lockdown. Hero's Entrance comes in, and ADD has to flash out of the fight. Featherstorm not going to catch anybody. No roots come down, and no one will die.
Big investment to try to get onto the Fiora. She holds onto her riposte, and then ends up riposting 2 abilities, including the Hero's Entrance, and slides out. Big investment, multiple ults used. Even Flash from Tucson used to make that happen, and they don't get it. That's what MVP won, over pursuing onto ADD, who's slippery at the worst of times, and now that she's so monstrously ahead, a full and completed legendary tier item, Black Cleaver and Ravenous Hydra and more completed. It's surprisingly easy to make those great escapes.
Throw the Trinity Force in there just for good measure.
That's not how passives work, Achilles, you know that. But a Bloodthirster could definitely be rolled in. A Spirit Visage would be a pretty good purchase.
I just want to see the dash auto attacks coming through.
I'm just happy that we see the old items come back because people have been asking, what do you build on Fiora? We only see Trinity Force because you're against another carry and you want turret killing threat. You have implied turret killing threat when you go 2 items like this, but you have great kill threat onto the Cho'Gath.
Well, MVP stabilizing here for the moment, but they haven't been able to grow this gold lead. Nor have they been able to pick up either of those dragons so far. 2 minutes now, just about on the clock. And that third Infernal is going to come up. You have to expect MVP to start focusing some vision down around that bottom side of the map, because right now, it's pretty blind for them. As we'll see, actually, the challenge is going to be thrown in here by ADD. Let's go ahead, get out of there with Max.
Yeah, optimistic.
Him up.
Does mean the ult's going to be down for the Infernal fight as well. Turret diving at Cho'Gath with Thornmail is going to take a long time, so that was definitely an unreliable choice. And notice that MVP, we said, okay, lane assignment, get the Fiora around the Drake you want to fight for. That's done. So thumbs up for that one. But you're right, the vision control for MVP, which is something they desperately needed to do, is now very, very defensive. It feels like Afreeca actually setting the tone of the game, despite the fact that there's theoretically one person on the Rift that no one can fight. And MVP's not getting enough out of how big the Fiora is until now, seeing her solo down a ton.
Yeah, gold lead just hasn't grown. It's still just stagnating around 2,000 gold here at the moment. As ADD was able to finally take that turn, but Infernal now in under a minute. ADD is trying to get some vision around, but he's got very limited options. Throws down the Trinket Ward, and that's about it.
Fight-wise, it feels like maybe Afreeca even better to go now because they have 2.5 items on the Xayah, the BF Sword towards Infinity Edge, and the damage amp from the Zeke's Convergence already complete. Fiora's not necessarily a team fight beast, so there's already an argument that Afreeca have been able to get over the hump that represented the first 10 minutes of the game. We're going to see Infernal spawn, number 3 in 20 seconds. For now, vision control pretty absent from both teams around the Drake, despite there being a single control ward in the Pixel Brush.
Back up to the top side, Infernal in 10. Afreeca just hovering in the river here, stationing Spirit up. They have the control ward. They will see MVP pushing into the river. MVP just now going to start cutting their way down and try to counteract some of this vision. But even then, they have to be worried. Hero's entrance ready to go there from Kuro, and we know that Tucson will just jump straight back in.
In top side, Afreeca don't have to fight.
They get the lockdown, and that's just going to be the pop coming in. Tucson, the first one eliminated, but they will trade back for Max. Beyond gets pulled straight back in by the Galio, and he will be taken down. As the Xayah finds a kill, ADD into the back line, trying to finish off Spirit, but he just can't do it. Kuro is there to bodyguard him. Kramer flashes away, tries to go back in aggressively to get a root, just can't find it. And Afreeca Freecs will start kiting back, playing in these choke points. They will maintain control. They got 2 picks, so the 2 for 1 in their favor. It seems like neither side might be able to get onto that dragon here for the moment. Taunt comes down. That's going to be a pop-up. ADD going to be focused out. Dashes away. Gets 1 hit in to get the heal, but it doesn't matter. He'll get taken down in the end. Kramer finds another kill. 3-0-1 now on the Xayah. TP out from Tucson. Afreeca Freecs should be able to secure that Infernal Drake, if not just the Baron.
They just want to go straight for Baron. At the time, Pilot was farming minions in the bot lane as Fiora was still involved in some sort of an outnumbered skirmish. The respawns have happened. Beyond's trying to walk up, but this Baron's going down fast.
And they are just absolutely shredding this one. No one nearby to go for the steal. Ian could just throw in a spell, but that's about as good as it gets. And Baron over onto the side of the Afreeca Freecs. The flash in on the taunt. They lock him down. They take both of them out. Afreeca Freecs just starting to run away with this game. Finally have a gold lead for the first time here. 24.5 minutes in, and now with a Baron buff, they're going to extend that as they look to knock down these turrets.
Yeah, freaking in the very early game, we've seen them give over a couple of kills in the Kuro LeBlanc game a few weeks ago, and in this game, make some mistakes around top side. But when they get going, they get going. They have a front-to-back team fight comp that outclasses MVPs. MVP had some wrong lane assignments and also didn't get the most out of the Fiora, and now it's Baron buff, triple Infernal, Wombo, front-to-back team fighting comp. That's a big mouthful, but it's a lot of damage as well as no one can get onto the Xayah. So much peel for the side of Kramer. And now, great difficulty to see how MVP can actually force something, especially against Baron.
Yeah, and just great lockdown from the Afreeca Freecs as they are showing. The taunt into the rupture, the hero's entrance on top of it all with the quickness stacked in. They can just keep somebody CC'd for days, and MVP just get picked off like flies.
Watch this, though. Fiora goes in with a Q and then tries to leave. Pilot's already 3/4 of the way to the bot lane minion wave. So, unfortunately, they are definitely not playing around where they're strong or where they're weak. Communication seems to be at a premium for MVP. Now we see AD in the top lane going for a bit of a solo mission.
Something like a buster shot there to knock everybody back would have been certainly welcomed by ADD, but does not have it. Now MVP just let themselves trying to counter push against these Baron-empowered minions. No banner of command yet, so at least that slight reprieve there for the MVP side, but they had control of this game. They got the ball rolling out of the top lane very early on, and now it might just be slipping through their fingers.
And now, honestly, Afreeca will just use one of Tucson or Spirit to set up the hero's entrance, and if flashes are down, doesn't matter if they go 1-for-1 with that first pick and give up the support or jungler. Xayah will do the rest of the work. It's all about forcing fights where Xayah is safe, and this sort of team comp, it's very difficult to stop that happening if you're MVP, so they walk up. Isn't there for the roam. So far, MVP, they're grouping with Fiora. Always a bad sign.
Kills per game historically here for Kramer hasn't been the highest, but to turn that around with his quite nice scoreline that he's got going for himself here. 3-0-3. 3 completed items as well. He is an absolute monster with the Xayah so far. He's going to start shredding down the turret. Explosive Cask does get invested. They get the lockdown there onto Tucson, but the hero's entrance comes through from Kuro just to help keep him alive. They force out the turret in the end. It seems like they'll just go their separate ways.
It's only the second game from Kramer on the Xayah for the season. Remember, Kilios, the first time he played Xayah, he had 100% of his team's kills, not kill participation, just straight up kills. First time I have ever seen that in a professional game. He's not at 100% here, but he is in such a point of power. You wonder why we see so low Xayah Rakan priority, because with Tucson, he definitely takes Rakan whenever it's available. When Aiming was in the lineup, they played Xayah Rakan as well. So a surprise we've seen so little of the Xayah from Kramer especially, but no surprise on Tucson. He's 5-0 Rakan, even though there's been very low Xayah priority by Kramer.
Well, been working out well for them, and I think that MVP is going to have to try to disrupt that Lover's bot lane if it should arise there in game number 2 as we start looking forward to that one. Still a ways to go, however. 28 minutes in. This one could go on to around the 40-minute mark unless Afreeca Freecs can really start pushing the accelerator on this one.
And I'd love to be glass half full for MVP because they did so many smart things in the early game.
But then I see so many silly ones.
Well, it's not even that. I just look at the top of the screen and see the straight fire on the side of Afreeca, and I go, well, you know, if they had 3 Ocean Drakes, you'd have more of a chance. But right now, Afreeca just need to knock up 3 people with the Hero's Entrance, and Xayah will do the rest. MVP needs to split the map. AD pushing with no vision, but still the correct play. Wants to try and force someone from Afreeca to come join the Cho'Gath. Knows that if it's 5v5, MVP's chances are out the window.
Freaking out. Looking for that final inner turret before they start knocking down the inhibitors. Baron buff has since expired, but they know that they're in a powerful position. They know that they have that triple Infernal Drake, so.
And they know their composition has a big lead in 5v5. You don't pick Fiora, Gragas, Ryze for 5v5. It's about rotational play around the Fiora's 1v1 strength. So, difficult to pull these comps off in the Banon meta. No Banner of Command yet, but I believe that's what Tucson is building next.
Seems to be moving towards it. You'd have to be pretty silly to not build a Banner of Command on this patch. But nothing really to take here for the Afreeca Freecs, so can just get some vision prep for that 4th Drake, the 4th and final one before we see the Elder pop his head out. So 1 minute and 15 seconds, and Ocean will be joining us, so just a little bit of sustain to go up with that massive increase in damage that Afreeca find themselves with.
Spellbinder actually picked up again on Ian. Seems to be largely a Ryze item when it comes to who's playing it in the current meta. We'll be building up the charges, looking for that brief window of power where he has movement speed and AP, and Ryze is all about the burst rotation, so definitely has the innate synergy there. With Deathcap's power spike right now, I find it hard to see many champions where just going for straight raw AP isn't the right way to go, but I could definitely be convinced with Ryze because he loves the 10% MS and also the movement speed boost you get on using the active.
Well, MVP, they went for the very strange composition. Started off quite well, but Ian with that first pick Ryze hasn't been the most impactful. We haven't really seen any Realm Warp plays either coming through. Just the one really that comes to memory, trying to save his teammate. And it didn't work, so.
And the Stand United also has left a bit to be desired.
Yeah, that's been really weird for Max.
Yeah, going for a turret dive on a Cho'Gath was the last one I remember seeing on screen that was any relevance. There's the Banner of Command. So basically this game plan from Afreeca is very simple. Put down 3 control wards around Baron. They've already done that. Rock up to the Baron. Force the enemy team to fight and either win the 5v5 or set up the Banon minion, and then Fiora has to rotate anyway, and you lose the value out of the Fiora split push. So it's almost time for the lose-lose decision from MVP, where you either get a super play that defies expectation, a Baron steal, or more likely, you just get ground out by this Afreeca comp who've gotten over their early game hump and now have a lot of options and are trying to force MVP to react to where Afreeca is strongest.
MVP trying to add another objective onto their scoreboard. The Ocean Drake coming through, but in the meantime, Beyond just gets absolutely deleted. Again, the CC is just huge as far as the chains are concerned there from Afreeca Freecs. They lock him down. He's dead, and that's got to be another Baron that is just freshly respawned.
Beyond evaporated like a glass of cold water on a hot day left outside. It just instantly was gone. They turn on to Baron. Cho'Gath doesn't even defeast it. He wanted a feast stack, couldn't get into the pit. The damn buff died so fast. Now they roll through mid lane. They put down a Banner of Command minion, and it doesn't matter how much gold your Fiora is ahead. Right now it's only 3,000, which given it was 2.3k at about 12 minutes, definitely gone down.
And there it is.
Going to be using the top side, and Ryze says no fair. Still patch 8.4, guys. No nerf onto the Banon minion. Still super powered.
Yep. It's coming through. Turret is going to be punished. And nobody can move forward close enough to try to take this one out. Pilot is really the only one, but he won't get the opportunity before that turret does fall. Beyond tried to hit it with the barrel, but that doesn't work.
We're going to call this Banon minion Maha.
That's great.
It's Maha's dead.
Yeah, Maha's
died in the front line again. Classic Maha.
He had that pentakill once.
He did.
On Sivir.
Pilot has one this season.
Yeah.
Well, they seem to have souped up their AD carry position, but I don't even think a souped-up AD carry can deal with what Afreeca's doing.
Oh, well, Tucson looking for another engage. Hero's entrance going to come down, and well, Kramer just finds himself in the front line, stuck. He'll get taken down as Pilot does find another
ADD's
kill.
coming too. This could actually be a turnaround.
On a flash away, ADD pinching in from the side. He'll get slowed up, has to use the Protobalt, gets the taunt, and Crow says, go ahead, fight me, let my teammates live. He will go down as Pilot claims another one. ADD trying to get the cutoff, but doesn't seem like he'll get there in time.
Well, that was a big botch on the Baron buff, and now ADD's hunting for some Kha'Zix.
Going for it. That's going to be Max arriving. This time the Shadow Dance dash does connect, and they get the kill. That was the best stand united that we've seen from him so far in this game. And just like that, MVP open a window back into this game, and they start to crawl through it.
Feels like a Sunday afternoon cartoon level League of Legends game where Afreeca had everything ready to go. And then one cask later, Xayah finds herself completely out of position. They lose 3 further kills from that passage of action. Really surreal stuff on the top side. And now MVP, they group, they want to take some structures, they want to close the gold lead, and maybe the death we profess, the eulogy for MVP in Game 1, could actually have been premature.
Yeah, might have just been a bit comatose there from MVP, but now they're waking up, they're joining us yet again as they try to turn things around. Pilot adding 2 more kills there for himself with that Tristana, still deathless now 3-0. As the items keep coming through, he's just going to get more and more powerful.
They get a do-over. It's still a Baron minion. The Baron is still being worn onto Tucson, so they're able to push through mid lane, try and make this work. Galio not there, but in range for Hero's entrance.
Keen has it as well, but not going to be trying to split into multiple lanes. Going to be operating as a unit. They don't want that pickoff to happen yet again. Pilot gets in range, almost gets that last hit in to cancel out that Bannon, but just can't do it in time, and now they're going to lose a chunk there. Onto the inhibitors, it gets 2 hits off.
Banner of Command, Baron buffed up, Siege Minion does the work. The Baron takes down the turret, but actually assaulting this inhibitor could be difficult.
Coming through, they're not going to find the pop-ups, and the Shadow Dash isn't going to connect either, but a massive Blade Caller comes through, and that's going to be beyond getting popped. ADD joining him in the grave, as does the Shen, and it was looking maybe possible for MVP to try to turn this one around, but now with 3 kills coming through, Afreeca Freecs in the base of MVP might just be able to close this one out. They're not going to wait for the wave. They're not going to go for the finish yet. But they have the inhibitor broken, and they absolutely punish MVP.
And that was the hot knife through butter we were waiting to see from Kramer, just slicing through ADD. He couldn't even have time to flash. He was instantly dead to 3 auto attacks after the Zeke's convergence came in. That's what Afreeca tried to do last time. They botched it that time. This time Kramer was ready for the cask. They get over the Gragas, and now they want to break a second base turret.
Oh, massive crit goes through. Kramer, he's going to flash, but he is just 1 hit from dead, and Ian going forward will find it, but he might get punished for that kill. He will get taken down. They immediately turn in, get the knock up there off the back of Tucson, and they punish the Rise, but MVP still, they're not going down without a fight.
They're going to buy a lot of time because the only ranged auto attacker on the side of Afreeca is the Xayah. Rakan's range, sure, it's more than melee, but might as well be a melee champion. They have to back away. They're buying time. Worry for the side of MVP, though, is what they buy themselves is a date with Elder Dragon because the 3 Infernals being amped up to a further 12% AD and AP is not something they can stand to bear.
Yeah, 36% is pretty disgusting, especially when you see how much damage Kramer has already been doing. Takes just as much damage as he dishes out, as it turns out. But, yeah, the Elder Dragon, with just those raw stats alone, let alone the true damage burn, would pretty much seal the deal unless MVP had some miraculous fight.
This game has been very, very sloppy from both sides. Not what the Afreeca fans want to see, but at least they can feel like it's indicative of the good situation they find themselves in. Hard work has been done over the course of the spring season, so it really is a scenario where they are set up to succeed. Could lose this series and then just straight up beat KT on the final day, and then no harm, no foul. They still will be in second place.
I don't think they want that to be their second place condition, though.
At least there's something to fall back upon, whereas in previous seasons, Afreeca have been up and down with no rhyme or rhythm, and there hasn't been a silver lining for them. So Elder spawns, Baron a minute 20 offset. A pick before the Elder would be delightful, but Ian's not going to opt into that.
Elder now started up here by Kuro. Draw it out away from the pit. No vision in there for MVP. Trying to scout, having to use the barrel rolling that out just to try to spot out the members of Afreeca Freecs, but they can't do it. And that's just gonna be an Elder Dragon.
938 AP Galio.
God.
Kramer has 583 AD. I think some people are wanting this game to go to a second Elder so we could potentially see the 100% amp on the Infernals. Then we'd be at 11 to 1200 AP on the Galio.
It's just disgusting.
He hasn't even finished his items.
I want to see Kuro just as punch somebody and see how much damage he does.
I'm going to say a truckload and be correct.
Oh dear. Well, Baron coming up in 30 seconds. Looks like Afreeca is just going to go in for a final back as ADD surfs his way into the bottom side of the map.
I accidentally looked somewhere I shouldn't look, Achilles. I got very depressed at Beyond's items, as there are people here who have almost 6, and he has 2.5.
Oh.
Oh, that's, you know, feels like he is in a bad spot when it comes to items. He is literally a Gragas ultimate and then nothing.
Yep, he is just ult utility.
Who's stronger, the Banon minion or the Gragas?
It's definitely the Banon minion. But speaking of strong, look at that damage. Absolutely disgusting.
Ooh, 988 AP onto the Galio.
We're getting closer.
He's going to buy now. He's going to buy.
This is a Galio in Veigar territory. Absolutely insane.
Now I want to see a Veigar in this territory.
So there's only a minute left on this Elder Dragon, so they primarily utilized it to go ahead and take down the Baron. I would love to see Kramer just hit somebody at least once.
It sounds obscene, but because they have so few so few range champions, the Banon's actually more important than the extra AD and AP.
There you go.
Banon does the job, breaks the base they couldn't break before. Flashes are up on the side of MVP, so actually starting a fight where Xayah can free auto is not a trivial thing to do. That's why there's a bit of trepidation. This is not a mistake from Afreeca, it's the fact that their comp excels when the enemy comes to them, and MVP say, well, we don't want the game to end, so we're not going to come to you, and that's also buy time for ADD to at least be irritating.
Just trying to keep Keen busy there in the bottom side of the map. Afreeca Freecs are slowly pushing up. Auto's going through. That's going to be the engage from Tucson. Gets a double pop-up, and they absolutely just destroy Beyond yet again. Now the lockdown in onto Max. Onto the Tristana. They'll get taken down. Max tries to limp his way out of the fight, but he just can't do it. He gets cut down. ADD getting the GA pop. This is going to be the finish on game number 1 here. 40.5 minutes on the clock as the Fiora dies yet again. Ian does his damnedest, but just has to flash away. The damage chunking him out. They go into the fountain. They try to finish him off. They just can't quite get it. But the Nexus has died. Afreeca Freecs keep the hopes alive of maintaining that second place spot, of shutting down KT before they even had to face each other on the Rift as they claim the victory here in game number 1.
I hope you guys at home enjoyed episode 1 of the LCK Twilight Zone for spring 2018. Very strange, surreal game where Afreeca made a lot of mistakes around the top side, but then Smart Macro bailed them out of a Cho'Gath who was having oh so little fun against the Fiora. From there, they were eventually able to close the game. Mistakes are plenty on both sides, but Afreeca Freecs do go up 1-0. The sort of game where looking at the post-game thread will be misleading for what we actually saw for 40 minutes on the Rift.
Well, they're cheerful, say, from losing streak, being the champion. That's a bit wanting, I think, and a bit unlikely given the sloppiness from MVP and the Afreeca Freecs as well in this game. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who had the objective control, and MVP let that early lead slip right through their fingers.
Difficult to pull off Fiora comps, and when you're against one of the best teams, it is a risk. Now, they got a head around the Fiora, so you can at least feel good about that part of the equation, but maybe a new strategy for Game 2. Otherwise, Afreeca might enjoy their roll-on to that 2-0-2-0 they need in these 2 series against MVP and BBQ to guarantee second spot on the ladder.
Perhaps a bit more of a standard comp from MVP as we get ready to go into game number 2. The Rise first pick for them. Fiora and then Gragas in the jungle was just quite bizarre from MVP, so I think they're going to tighten things up for game number 2. They want to extend this series. They want to keep Afreeca's hopes in the dumps. We'll see what happens when we come back from the break.